I never thought a few barrels collecting rainwater would end with me standing in court, watching the HOA board turn pale as their own case fell apart. It started simple, just trying to save a little on water and do my part during a drought. But, boy, did the HOA flip out. Before I knew it, I was the villain in their bizarre drama. And let me tell you, I learned real quick. Never underestimate how far people will go to feel powerful. So here's how it went down. I live in a quiet, middle-class neighborhood outside Phoenix. Pretty normal place, cul-de-sacs, trimmed lawns, folks walking their dogs in the evening. I moved in about 6 years ago after retiring early from my job as a civil engineer. I figured I'd finally get to enjoy my hobbies, woodworking, gardening, maybe fixing up a classic truck. The house was perfect. Big backyard, decent privacy, and yes, on HOA, I didn't love the idea, but the fees weren't terrible, and at first, the rules seemed reasonable. Then the drought hit hard. You know how it's been out here, the kind of dry that cracks the earth and turns lawns brown even with sprinklers. The city started pushing water conservation. They offered rebates for low-flow toilets, xeriscaping, and even rain collection systems. I figured, why not? So I picked up two 55-gallon rain barrels, placed them neatly under my gutter spouts behind the house, and thought nothing of it. 3 weeks later, I get a letter. Big red HOA logo at the top. It accused me of violating aesthetic standards and unauthorized modifications to property. I'm reading this thing like, are you serious? It said I had 10 days to remove the rain barrels or face fines of $50 a day. $50 a day for collecting rain? I chuckled at first, thinking it had to be some mix-up. I emailed the HOA president, a guy named Dennis. Now, Dennis is one of those fellas who wears polos with the HOA logo embroidered on the chest like he's in the military. I asked him nicely to explain. His response? A copy-paste of the letter, plus a note that said, we enforce the rules for the good of the community. No exceptions. Okay, pal. I checked the HOA covenants, nothing in there about rain collectors. Nothing. They had a clause about visible structures requiring approval, but come on, the barrels weren't visible from the street. I even had shrubs covering most of them. But Dennis wasn't having it. Within a week, I started getting notices of fines. They escalated it fast. Suddenly, I owed them hundreds. They claimed I needed to submit an application for approval, but the same email said, rain collection systems are not permitted. How's that for a catch-22? I decided to stand my ground. I refused to pay the fines and kept my barrels. That's when they went nuclear. They filed a lawsuit against me. The complaint said I was lowering property values, creating a safety hazard, and violating community standards. I remember sitting in my kitchen reading that paperwork, shaking my head. My neighbor, Joe, saw me through the window and came over. Joe's a retired sheriff's deputy straight shooter, common sense kind of guy. I showed him the papers, and he just laughed. They're suing you for collecting water in Arizona? Man, that's rich. The next weeks were a blur of legal prep. I hired a local attorney, a sharp woman named Erica. She's the kind of lawyer who doesn't miss a beat, calm, focused, but with that glint in her eye that says she enjoys a good fight. She reviewed the HOA bylaws and city ordinances and grinned. They stepped in it, she said. Turns out, the city encouraged rain collection, and state law actually protected it. There were specific statutes that overrode HOA restrictions when it came to water conservation. Dennis and his crew either didn't know or didn't care. When the court date came, I showed up in jeans and a button-down. The HOA board came and dressed like they were going to a corporate board meeting. Dennis was front and center, smirking like he had it in the bag. Their lawyer made this dramatic speech about community standards and unsightly additions. I could barely keep a straight face. Then it was Erica's turn. She calmly laid out the facts: the city program, the state law, the lack of any clear HOA rule against what I'd done. She even brought in documentation that the HOA had previously approved other exterior additions like satellite dishes and pergolas without issue. Then came the kicker. Remember Joe? He volunteered to testify. Joe told the judge how he could barely even see the barrels, how they weren't a hazard, and how he had considered installing his own after seeing mine. When Dennis tried to interrupt, the judge shut him down fast. And here's the twist nobody saw coming during cross-examination. Erica asked Dennis if any HOA board members had similar unapproved exterior additions. He denied it. That's when Erica handed over photos of Dennis's own backyard, a shed that never got approval and a patio cover installed without a permit. The courtroom went dead silent. I swear I heard someone in the gallery whisper, "Busted." The judge didn't waste much time. He ruled in my favor. Not only did he dismiss the HOA's complaint, but he also ordered them to cover my legal fees. The judge said their case was without merit and inconsistent with public policy. In other words, they made fools of themselves. Walking out of that courtroom felt good. Dennis avoided eye contact. The rest of the board looked like they'd swallowed lemons. And guess what? A couple weeks later, the HOA quietly sent out a newsletter announcing they were reviewing their policies to better align with community and environmental standards. Oh, and the cherry on top? The city sent me a thank you letter for promoting water conservation and invited me to speak at a community event about sustainable living. So much for being a hazard. I'm not going to say I enjoyed the stress of the whole thing. It ate up months of my time and energy. But I learned something. Sometimes standing up for what's right means calling a bully's bluff and letting the facts do the talking. And sometimes, karma comes with legal fees attached. What do you think? Was I right to push back? Or should I have just taken the barrels down? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for sticking with me through this story, and if you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button for more real-life HOA drama and smart comebacks.